Right, apparently we are live. Apparently we're live and ready to go, guys. Yeah, nice one, spot on. Okay, guys. So yeah, thank you for bearing with us just a second there. I'm trying my hand at the technological side of things this morning. And welcome back. Welcome back. We've got our second week of our understanding overcoming health and fitness barriers course. I know we sort of led in last week. We were looking at food labels and stuff like that. How to read food labels, interpreting them, and all of that sort of jazz. So today we're going to have a look at one of the things, or I guess probably one of the biggest part of our bodies that our diet probably is affecting these days, and that is our heart, between all the salt that's coming in food, sugar, saturated fats, just becoming more and more abundant. Of course, our heart and our what we call our cardiorespiratory system, which is just your heart and your lungs working together really to get the oxygen around the body. And that's what we're going to have a bit of a look at this morning, just understanding the process, how oxygen comes into the body, the job that it does, how it gets around the body, and then of course just how it repeats the cycle over and over pretty much endlessly, because it's a fascinating thing. The heart, of course, it beats from the second we're born till the second that we die, and it never takes a day off. It never, it's pretty hardy piece of kit. It's pretty robust. But of course, like I say, we've got to look after it. We've got to make sure we're giving it the best care that we can, and a lot of that comes from getting a bit of exercise and some good food choices, guys. So yeah, I think just understanding how the blood flows around the body, like I say, can help us understand the impact of some of our, like I say, our exercise and our food choices, for sure. So, right, guys, what we're going to start off with, actually, we're going to do a little bit of we're going to get a little bit arts and craftsy this morning. We're going to, if you want to, we've got a little diagram that I'm going to just talk us through step by step this morning, just to follow the journey of sort of blood around the body. If you wanted to, you could always grab yourself a pen and paper. Um, you would need probably two different colored pens if you've got them, so we can mark different stuff, and just keep it nice and clear for you following through. If you want to, of course, you can either just screenshot the slides or just come back to this PowerPoint, or come back to this sort of session whenever you want to just sort of recap. But I do find it's handy to not only to have it handy yourself, like in physical form and in your notes, but I feel as though just following it step by step and actually drawing it out just helps it sink in that little bit more as well, guys. So like I say, we've got step by step walkthrough. We're going to build up the heart and start to get a little bit of a picture of how it works and how it does the job that it does, because like I say, we all know it's important, we all know we need to take care of it. There's not so obvious how to take care of it, and some of the things that can affect our heart and our health that we might not think about, but we can get into that a little bit this morning as well, guys. So I'll just give you a minute or two if you do want to run and grab a piece of paper, a couple of pens, a pen and a pencil, whatever you want to do, to copy this diagram across. And then you're going to want a pen and a bit of paper anyway, because we've got a little quiz to do after this. And like I say, you'll just want to be able to make a note of what answers you've picked and stuff like that, so we can check them as we go back through. Yeah, cool. As always, guys, I've got one eye on the live chat, so if you feel as though there's anything you're not too sure of, if there's anything that you want to sort of chime in with, by all means do. Like I say, if you're watching this back later on in the week and you've got any questions, then just drop me an email. My email will be in the description below the video, along with the workbook for today's session. So it's the same workbook as last week. But if for any reason you missed the workbook or even last week's session overall, of course, you can go back and see that session again. Let me know and I'll email that workbook over to you so you've got it. Again, if this is your first session again, and we're sort of getting caught up this week with last week's as well, like I mentioned last week, at the end of each session, we're going to have a little fitness video to do. Like I say, it's something you can do immediately after the session, or again, it's something you can come back to later on in the week when you've got a little bit more time, maybe a little bit more space as well. Like I maybe a little bit of time to clear yourself some space. So like I say, there's a little bit of a fitness video to finish us off with. Today's just a nice, it's chair-based exercise, guys. So it's stuff that we can do sitting down. I know we had like a little bit of a stretch off last week, get us moving again after potentially a little bit of a break from exercise, especially through lockdown and stuff like that. We've all probably not been moving just as much. So nice little stretch last week, got us moving again. And then today, like I say, chair-based exercise. So it's all stuff we can do sat down. there's something in there for everybody. You know, if your knees are bad, we don't need to worry about it. We're sat down, you know. So if you've got a lower back, you've got plenty of support, and just make sure you've got a chair that's going to give you a little bit of back support and stuff like that, guys. So yeah, on our Media Savvy channel, there's a whole playlist of the workout video, guys. If you do want to go on and check out any of them, or you think, okay, Rob's given us a stretching video to do this week, I fancy something a bit more challenging, a bit more intense, I'm going to go and do an abs session or an interval session or something like that, guys. So again, something on there for everybody. Definitely check it out, and as always, let us know how you're getting on with those as well. Okay, guys, so assuming we've got our pens, papers, whenever it is we need, we're ready to go. Like I say, we're just going to take it one step at a time. Take it nice and slow, not rush through. But if I am moving a little bit quicker than you're sort of copying across or drawing, or even just sort of reading the slide and stuff like that, by all means, do feel free to just hit the pause button and then just catch up sort of whenever you're ready, yeah, once you've got all that information flowed down. Right, guys, let's get into it then. Let's get into it. Let's wake that old brain up. Okay, guys, so like I mentioned a second ago, what we're looking at today is our cardiorespiratory system. Yeah, so cardio, again, if you're thinking about when it comes to exercise, if you're doing cardio, it's all stuff that's going to work your heart and your lungs, yeah, and your respiratory system is just everything to do with breathing, pretty much. Have you ever heard of like a respirator or seen anybody with a respirator? That's all it is. It's just a little bit of assistance with breathing. So that is what that word is, guys. It looks like a big old fancy word, but it's nothing more complicated than our heart and our lungs working together. Not that that can't be a complicated system, as I'm sure we're about to find out, guys. So for this first step, all we've done, we've drawn 4 boxes. Yeah, we've drawn 4 boxes, all the same size, and we've separated them down the middle with this big old thick wall, which is, like I say, a big dividing wall down the middle of the heart. And that is important for reasons we're going to discuss in a minute. So what we've got here, guys, and what these 4 boxes sort of signify, and what the standing for, is 4 separate chambers of the heart. So your heart has got 4 chambers, yeah, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, and they're divided left side from right by this big thick wall down the middle, yeah. So same again, guys, step 1, that's all we need to do, just get those 4 boxes down and that big thick wall down the middle. And we can see there that it's labeled, and we call that the septum down the middle, yeah. So septum down the middle. If you've ever I mean, we have a septum in our nose, it separates one side from the other. Have you ever heard of a septum piercing, which is kind of like that? I mean, it could be a hoop, it could be a stud, but through the middle of the nose, not the bridge, but you know, actually separating one nostril from the other. That's a septum, and this is a septum. It does exactly the same job. It keeps one side separate from the other, and like I say, it's really important in the heart, and we'll get a look at just why in a second. Okay, guys, cool. We'll go step 2 then. Right, so what we've done here, we've labeled the left and the right hand side of the heart, yeah. So you're probably looking at this and saying, Rob, we've got left and right the wrong way around. Caught me out the first time as well. But the way I picture this is, if you took that piece of paper that's on the desk in front of you and spun it round so it's facing outwards and put it over your chest, the left hand side would be on the left hand side and the right hand side would be on the right hand side. Just as if you imagine that this heart is in the chest of somebody that you're stood face to face with. Of course, it's your right, but it's their left, and it's your left, but it's their right. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's the reason that we do it the way it is. So eventually, like I say, you can hold it up against your own chest, or you can look at somebody else's chest and visualize, okay, that's the left side and that's the right side for that person. Yeah, so tiny little bit confusing there, but that is why we do it. And now hopefully we understand why we've got that labeled the way that we have. Okay, guys, so that was all step 2 was, of course, same again. We've got our 4 boxes, septum down the middle, and then we've got right and we've got the left hand side. Same again. I'll just hold up a sec. Give everybody a little bit of time to just get those done, and then we'll spin on to step 3. Okay, guys, so step 3, we can see we've started to actually label the individual hearts. or the individual chambers of the heart as well. Yeah, so we've got the right atrium and the left atrium. So the atrium is at the top, and again we'll see in a second where the that's where the blood flows in from. And the way I remember them is atrium. An atrium in a building is like an open topped room kind of thing, you know. So that's the way I think of it. It's open top because the blood flows in. So we've got atrium at the top, and then at the bottom, same again, we've got a ventricle on the left hand side and the right hand side as well. So there's atrium and ventricle on either side. And then of course we've got the left and the right, like we talked about on that last slide just a second ago. Yeah. Okay, guys, cool. So we've now got individual names that differentiate all four of these chambers. Yeah. So right atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle. So now we can start to get an idea what jobs are done by each of these sort of little rooms in the house, if you want to think about it that way. So same again, atriums and ventricles, top and bottom. And we'll go step 4, guys. So what we're doing here, just to sort of, again, visualize how the blood flows around the body, and the job that it's doing in the process, we're going to create another 2 little boxes here. And it's just indicating either where the blood's coming to or where the blood's coming from. Yeah, so over to the right-hand side, we've got the lungs. And over to the left-hand side, we've got the body. Yeah. And just to talk about those a second while you're getting those down, of course, lungs, when we breathe in, that's where the air goes when we breathe in. Your lungs then take out the oxygen, and the oxygen then passes into your bloodstream. Yeah, so we've got the oxygen into your blood through your lungs. Yeah, and again, we can have a little bit of a deeper look at that in a little bit. So, yeah, when it comes to the lungs, like I say, they're primarily about bringing oxygen into the body and getting it into your bloodstream. Yeah. So then the blood flows somewhere. Yeah, and we'll see in a second just where it goes. Over to the left hand side, we've got another box that just says body. Yeah. Now, of course, heart is within the body. They're not separate things. But again, just make it a little bit clearer and make it easier to follow along with what we're doing. The body in this case is going to be sort of muscles that need the blood and the oxygen, and organs that need blood and the oxygen, you know, and like everywhere that it goes to after it's been through the heart, or everywhere that oxygen needs to get to, pretty much. Yeah. Okay, guys, cool. So we've got those two boxes there, off to the left and off to the right. Okay, cool. We'll go next one, step 5. Okay, guys, so this is where the first of your 2 colors is going to come into play. Now, again, remember, you've got a pen and a pencil, however you want to do it. All you're going to do is mark yourself somewhere on that piece of paper, just a little key like we've got here, that says that anything in red stands for oxygenated blood. Yeah, or represents oxygenated blood. So that is blood that has oxygen in it, that is to be delivered around the body to do the job that it needs to do, pretty much. Yeah, so we can actually start shading in where the oxygenated blood goes. Now, like we were just talking about a second ago, we know that blood picks up oxygen at the lungs, because that's where the lungs go to when we breathe. That's where the oxygen goes to when we breathe in. So we know that that's a really good place to sort of start our journey, because that's where the oxygen's entering the body. Yeah, and it'll be where carbon dioxide leaves our body as we breathe out, which is kind of the end of this cycle, really. So we've got, yeah, from our lungs, the blood is carrying oxygen. So its next job that it has to do is get around the body and deliver that oxygen to muscles and organs and stuff like that, tissue and whatever, you know. So in order to do that, it needs to be pumped around the body. And what does that is the heart. So the oxygenated blood comes into the top of the atrium. Remember, atrium open topped, so the blood can sort of fall into it, if you want to think about it that way. You know, the blood can flow into the top of the left atrium. It's then going to pass down through a little valve into the left ventricle. Yeah, and then as your heart beats, it squeezes the blood out and round the body to everywhere that it needs to be. Yeah, So oxygenated blood from the lungs into the left side of the heart. Yeah, we notice it doesn't touch the right side of the heart actually. So we've got into the left side of the heart, left atrium, left ventricle, and then out towards the rest of the body, delivering that oxygen and helping those muscles work and continue to work. Yeah. Okay, guys, and that is the whole journey of oxygenated blood. Yeah, that is like everything to do with oxygenated blood. It picks up the oxygen in the lungs, it goes through the heart, and it gets sent around the body to do its job. Then from there, of course, like we talked about a second ago, we know that it needs to make its way back to the heart, back to the lungs. Yeah, because it's been to the body, it's dropped off all the oxygen that it's got, so now it's deoxygenated blood. And like I say, it's not going to have any more oxygen until it passes through the lungs again. So it's got to make its way back. Takes us nicely on to step 6. So notice we've got a little bit of blue coming in now. So we've got a different color. Yeah, so same again, pen or pencil, second color, whatever it is that you're rolling with. And then same again, mark another little part of your key. Deoxygenated blood is going to be the second one. Yeah, so our blood is either oxygenated or deoxygenated. Yeah, it's either carrying oxygen or it's not. Okay, guys, so like we talked about a second ago, the blood has dropped off all of its oxygen and it needs to make its way back to the lungs. And again, the thing that's pumping it and driving the blood around the body that will eventually lead it back to the lungs is, of course, the heart. Yeah, so we've got same again, we come back from the body into the atrium, but it's the right hand side this time. Yeah, it's a different side. Yeah, so into the top of the right atrium. So we notice that when blood enters the heart, it's always at the top. Yeah, it's always in the atrium, and it always leaves through the ventricle at the bottom. Yeah, so same again, we've got that right atrium, we've got the right ventricle. Same again, it'll pass down through a little valve because we've got these valves to make sure that the flow of blood is one directional, pretty much. I think as the heart squeezes to force the blood out, as it expands again, in order to squeeze again, as it expands, it would naturally try and want to suck blood back over on itself by creating that vacuum where, of course, we only want blood to move in one direction. It's either got a job to go and do where it's delivering oxygen, or it's got to get back to the lungs to pick up more oxygen. Yeah, so we want to just have one-way street, and that's why we have these little valves, guys. There's a couple of different valves in the heart, different places, but yeah, between sort of the right atrium and the right ventricle, we would have one here. And same again, if you've ever heard of anybody having a valve transplant, I know valve transplants can be done these days. I know obviously we have stuff like a heart bypass, stents put into veins and arteries and stuff like that to open them up a little bit more to help blood flow. And because it's these little parts and these little tiny valves and all these little tiny mechanisms and stuff like that that really start to suffer with our bad food choices. You know, our saturated fats just sitting in our arteries and making it harder for the blood to push through. So your heart has to work harder, so it beats harder, and your blood pressure is higher. Yeah, because the pressure in your veins is higher because there's less room for everything that's in there. So yeah, we have all these little valves, these little parts, and same again, these will start to suffer over time through either lack of exercise or particularly bad diet choices. When we're thinking about like valves and stuff. Okay, guys. So from the body, deoxygenated blood. It's dropped off all the oxygen. Your muscles are working. Everything's as it should be. Back to the right atrium, right ventricle, and then same again. The heart will squeeze. At the same time, it sends the oxygenated blood out. It actually sends deoxygenated blood out from the other side back to the lungs as well. Forces it back down to the lungs, which is where we know the blood will enter it won't enter the lungs, it'll pass by the lungs, and it will pick up the oxygen on the way past, and it starts the whole thing again because it is now oxygenated again. Yeah, so it's almost like a little figure of 8 around the body, yeah, when we look at it that way. Yeah, so from the lungs into the left side, out of the left side, round to the body, drops off the oxygen, comes back to the right side of the heart, gets pumped back to the lungs to pick up more oxygen. And that is the whole cycle, guys. And that takes roughly depending on, of course, how hard your heart's beating, how hard you're working, but on average, about a minute. About a minute. And like I say, that is constant from when we're born to when we die, essentially. So again, really, really important piece of kit. And we can start to see that it's probably a little bit more intricate and a little bit more complicated than we probably thought, which again just gives us even more argument that we need to take care of it and look after it, guys. So that is probably that is the most probably easy to visualize a journey of the blood around the body. There are a couple of more just little blood vessels that we can name or that we can mention just to sort of add a little bit more detail to our diagrams as well. But if nothing else, we want to remember the blood flow around the body and all these little parts that are involved in the process, guys. So we can actually see from our last step, this is our last one, guys. So we can actually see we've got either coming into the heart, yeah, or out of the heart. We've got some pretty major blood vessels, yeah? We've got lots of veins. Some of them have different names. We've got lots of arteries. Some of them have different names. But of course, these are the only veins and arteries in the body that are doing this job around the heart, yeah? So, yeah, they are their own. They are quite significant sort of major blood vessels as well. So, guys, what we've got, I guess, coming from the let's have a look. So coming from the lungs, bringing the oxygenated blood, we've got the pulmonary vein. Yeah, so pulmonary. I'm always thinking of pulmonary as anything to do with the lungs. Yeah. So anything to do with lungs is usually pulmonary. So we've got from the lungs pulmonary vein, and that's the big vein that brings that oxygenated blood into the top of the atrium. Yeah, so without this pulmonary vein, no blood is getting from the lungs into the heart at all. Yeah, so we'd have loads of deoxygenated blood, loads of oxygenated blood, sorry, with nowhere for it to go. So this vein here is a big old important vein. From there, like we know, we follow the blood down into the left ventricle, and then it leaves, of course, and goes out to the body, and it leaves the heart through the biggest artery in the body, which is the aorta. Yeah, which is same again, big major blood vessel, and probably where blood pressure may well be highest. Yeah, because or the pressure within your blood vessels will be highest because it's just left the heart. Yeah, it's moving as quick as it's going to. So yeah, that also explains why if you cut an artery, sometimes it might spurt because an artery is going to be closer to the heart, whereas the veins are a little bit further down the process, and a little bit further away from the beating of the heart, so the pressure isn't quite as high there. So yeah, guys, pulmonary vein brings the blood to the heart. Then we've got the aorta, which takes the blood from the heart out to the body to drop it off. Yeah, so it starts off as one blood vessel, and then it splits off into like getting blood to your upper half, blood to your lower half, and then it branches off even further and gets all that blood down there, even like your toes and your fingers and stuff like that. But it all starts with the aorta. Without the aorta, the blood's not leaving the heart, and we're not getting that oxygen where it needs to be. Okay, from there, from the like I say, the body. So the blood's got no oxygen left. It needs to make its way back to the lungs to start the process again, and then it comes back to the heart with or through the vena cava. Yeah, so same again, this is a collection of loads and loads and loads of different little veins, like little branches that eventually connect up and become one and funnel everything, all that blood back into the right atrium. Same again, it passes from the atrium into the ventricle, but on the right-hand side, and then the pulmonary artery. So again, pulmonary, because it's going back to the lungs. So pulmonary is either to the lungs or from the lungs, but always to do with the lungs. And we've got the artery there, so that is bringing that round up to the lungs. Yeah, so without the pulmonary artery and without the vena cava, that deoxygenated blood never makes its way back to the lungs to pick up more oxygen, and we would need to be creating just fresh blood all the time to be able to even get any oxygen round, because it would almost make like the blood single use, wouldn't it? It would almost be like disposable, where we're like, right, okay, it's used, it's done. We're not going to recycle it. We're just going to create some fresh. Of course, we know that the most efficient way to do stuff is recycle if you can, and the human body works exactly the same way. The human body will tend to pick the path of least resistance, so whatever's easiest for it, and of course, just reusing blood and blood cells is easier than producing brand new constantly for however many years we're alive, you know. So there we go, guys. 4 really big major blood vessels that are to do with getting the blood either to the heart or from the heart directly. So yeah, if there were 4 blood vessels in the body that you were going to remember, I would say make those the 4, because they're really important, like I say, especially around your heart. Complicated bit of kit, and like I say, we need to take care of it, guys. And the food that we have readily available to us these days, and the way that marketing is, sometimes we need to, like we talked about last week, take responsibility for our own bodies and the food that's going into it, and the effect that that can actually have. You know, it was like I say, hopefully now we're starting to understand why those fatty foods can actually be a problem. It's not just about putting a little bit of weight on. It's actually about, okay, those fats can actually get into some important pieces of kit in the body and slow them down or stop them working altogether, you know. Like for example, a stroke is sort of lack of oxygenated blood flow to a certain part of the brain, you know. So a little blockage in a blood vessel can be enough to cause that, guys, you know. So like I say, that's why we're looking after our heart, and our exercise and our food go hand in hand to be as healthy as possible. You know, I've seen a lot of guys in the gym who spend a lot of time, women as well, working on the muscles that look good in the mirror, you know, your biceps, your pecs, your abs, your glutes, whatever it might be, where the muscle that potentially the most important muscle in the body, the heart, the thing that keeps us alive, gets neglected, you know. And same again, like if you've, I know Haytham's mentioned stuff like dirty bulking before, which is this idea of if you're trying to put a little bit of weight on, just eat everything, you know, no matter how good it is or how bad it is, just to get those calories in to be in a surplus. So you put a little bit of weight on, you know. Now, it's not all about weight loss and weight gain, guys. You know, we want to keep our hearts healthy. We need good fats rather than bad fats. You know, you're talking about omega-3, 6, and, you know, stuff that we find in fish and nuts, naturally occurring fats, rather than all of these synthetic sort of processed, manufactured, and God knows what else chemical stuff that's going in our food as well. So same again, eating good food isn't just about weight gain and weight loss. It's about taking care of all the important parts that keep our body moving, yeah, and keeping it functioning. So those are the 7 steps, guys, and hopefully we're about done with those diagrams now. So we've got, like I say, we've got our 4 separate rooms. We've got left and the right side separated. Of course, we've got our body and our lungs either side, and then we've got the deoxygenated and oxygenated blood flowing through them, and then we've got those 4 major blood vessels labeled as well. Just before we move on, guys, so I know I mentioned this septum earlier on in the session and how important it is. So now we can start to understand why, because we can see that the left-hand side and the right-hand side deal with 2 totally different jobs, really. This is dealing with oxygenated blood, and this is dealing with deoxygenated blood. So if this wall gets compromised and starts to break down, if you end up with like a hole in your septum, deoxygenated blood will start to spill over into where the oxygenated blood is. Yeah, and we'll get a mix, not quite 50-50, but the oxygenated blood will become diluted with deoxygenated blood. So when your body then sends it round, when your heart then sends it around the body to deliver oxygen to wherever it's going, some of that blood's got no oxygen to drop off. Yeah, because it was deoxygenated. It's coming to here, filtered across into this by accident almost, and then being pumped around the body. Your muscles are saying, right, where's me oxygen? And this blood essentially is like, I'm lost. This isn't where I'm supposed to be, pretty much. And I actually used to work with a lady who had a hole in her septum. And when she was exercising and working quite hard, she would get dizzy quite a lot because, again, she wasn't getting the oxygen around her body, and it was taking a little bit of an effect. So again, sort of alcohol, wrong foods, lack of exercise, recreational drugs, can all start to affect this septum, and sooner or later, yes, it can begin to break down. So again, we need to take care of it, because, like I say, we'll end up getting some health complications pretty quickly if these sort of two sides of the heart are allowed to mingle. I guess, they're kept separate for a reason. The heart doesn't. It's very specific. It doesn't work the way that it does by accident. So, like I say, we need to try and keep it in function in order for as long as we can, guys. Which I guess at the end of the day is the reason that a lot of us are here. A lot of us exercise. A lot of us trying to eat well. It's longevity, isn't it, guys? We want our bodies to work and to last as long as we possibly can. Okay, guys. So, as always, as I mentioned at the start of the session, if you need a little bit more time on that, by all means, pause it there and get finished up, or always come back to the session and come back and revisit those slides. By all means, yeah. For the time being, we're just going to do a little heart quiz. So, if you can grab yourself pen and paper, even if you didn't do those, even if you didn't copy the diagram across. Like I say, grab a pen and paper. I'm just going to go and shut the back door because it was roasting and now it's getting a little bit chilly. So I'll give you 30 seconds or so to run off and grab a pen and paper if you haven't got one, and then we'll start this heart quiz. Guys, see how we're getting on. Just 10 questions, 10 questions, and then we'll go through the answers when we get to the end. Yeah, right, guys, 2 seconds. Okay, guys, cool. Let's get into it then. So, heart quiz, 10 questions. Best of luck, guys. Like I say, by all means, let me know how you get on at the end as well. Okay, question 1. How many chambers are there in the heart? And if you've done your diagram this morning, by all means, go back and use it if there's any of these questions that you're not sure of. That's the point of the diagram. It's nice and easy to come back and revise on. Like I say, so yeah, definitely feel free to go back and check that out if you want to. Right, guys, right. How many chambers are there in the heart? Right, question 2. What do you call the top 2 chambers of the heart? Question 3. What do you call the bottom 2 chambers of the heart? So the last question was, what do we call the top 2? This one was, what do we call the bottom 2 chambers of the heart? Okay, what prevents the backflow of blood? Yeah, what is it that stops the blood coming back over and makes it just flow in one direction? All right, guys, question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What separates the two sides of the heart? What separates the left-hand side from the right-hand side of the heart? A big thick wall down the middle that we were talking about. What do we call it? Okay, guys. Next one. Have a little bit of a puzzler. So when the blood enters the heart from the lungs, yeah, so from the lungs, which side of the heart does it enter? Yeah, so when the blood enters the heart from the lungs, which side of the heart does it enter? Is it the left or is it the right when the blood is coming from the lungs? when blood enters the heart from the body, yeah. So when the next one, when the blood enters the heart from the body, is the blood oxygenated or deoxygenated? Yeah. So when it enters the heart from the body, is it carrying oxygen or is it not? Okay, next one. What is the job of the largest artery in the body? The aorta. Yeah, so what does the aorta do? And then the last two questions that we've got, multiple choice. How many times does your heart beat in a lifetime on average? 2.5 million, 2.5 billion, or 2.5 trillion? How many times does your heart beat in a lifetime? 2.5 million, 2.5 billion, or 2.5? Okay, how many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day, guys? Last question. How many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day? Is it 800 gallons, 1,000 gallons, or 2,000 gallons? And if you want to think about it in liters, it's almost 5 liters to a gallon. Yeah. So, um, what's that? So yeah, 4,000, 5,000, or 10,000 liters a day. A, B, or C, guys. What do we think? Right, guys, that was the end of the heart quiz. So we'll go back to the start and then we'll just whip through. I'll run through the answers. And then, like I say, you can just mark off how you did. Yeah, mark off how you did. See if there's anything that you maybe think, okay, I'm going to go back to my diagram or go back to the earlier on in the session and go back to those slides and just sort of recap on anything. Okay, guys, cool. So how many chambers are there in the heart? Remember when we did our diagram, we did our 4 separate rooms that sort of represented our 4 separate chambers. Yeah, so we've got 4 chambers in the heart. What do you call the top 2 chambers of the heart? Yeah, so remember the top 2 chambers where the blood flows into is the atrium. Yeah, the atria at the top of the are the top 2 chambers. One either side. There's one on the left side, one on the right side, and they're both the atrium. So what do we call the bottom 2 chambers of the heart? They are the ventricles, guys. Yeah, so remember atrium at the top, ventricle at the bottom, left-hand side and the right-hand side. Atrium at the top, ventricle at the bottom. What prevents the backflow of blood? As I sort of mentioned earlier on, it's valves. Yeah, we've got valves in our heart that kind of allow the blood to pass through one way, but won't let it come back the other way. Yeah, almost like sort of shuts off. Yeah, so it's valves in the heart that prevent the backflow of blood, allowing your blood to just move one direction and do its job. What separates the 2 sides of the heart was, of course, the septum. Yeah, so the septum down the middle that separates the left from the right, exactly the same as in your nose, with a septum piercing. Okay, so it's the septum that separates the left-hand side from the right-hand side, and now we understand why that's so important as well. Okay, when blood enters the heart from the lungs, which side of the heart does it enter? So we think about it, it's blood that's coming from the lungs. So it's got to have oxygen. And we know that that oxygen flows into the left-hand side of the heart. Yeah, it flows into that left-hand side, gets pumped around the body, and then comes round to the right-hand side. So when the blood enters the heart from the body, is it oxygenated or deoxygenated? So we can think about it. So it's coming from the body. So if it's coming from the body, it's already dropped its oxygen off to the muscles and organs and whatever. So the blood coming into the heart from the body must be deoxygenated, guys, yeah? Because it's then going back to the heart and then back to the lungs to pick up even more oxygen. Okay, guys, what is the job of the largest artery in the body, the aorta? And of course, on our diagrams, we can see that the aorta is the biggest artery at the bottom of the left ventricle that allows all the blood to pass from the heart and sort of enter your arteries and start to head round towards the rest of your body. Yeah, so the aorta is kind of like the gateway for and the main vessel. Almost like I think of it like almost like the motorway in terms of arteries. Like you've got the motorway and then you've got all the little side roads and slip roads that start to come off it, you know. But yeah, that is to carry oxygenated blood around the body to, again, allow your muscles to move and whatever, yeah. Okay, guys, how many times does your heart beat in a lifetime? 2.5 million, 2.5 billion, or 2.5 trillion. It's actually 2.5 billion, so B for this question. 2.5 billion, which is a lot of beats. That is a lot of beats. Now, if you think, if your heart is only going to beat so many times, the harder your heart has to work, the sooner it's going to start to break down, really, I guess. So we're thinking about trying to keep our resting heart rate quite low so that when you're just sitting around and resting, your heart's just going rather than because if you imagine like that's while you're resting and you start exercising, it's then going to go even faster. It's a lot of strain on your heart. It really is, which is why, again, someone who's a little bit healthier, someone who's maybe's got who does more exercise on the regular, their resting heart rate would be lower, you know, because their heart is used to working at a little bit more of an intense level. So working at the level where you're just moving around doing your job around the house is really easy for that heart to manage, you know. So it's almost like training it. It's the same as any other muscle. But yeah, 2.5 billion times your heart can beat in a lifetime. And then the last one, guys, just to finish us up, how many gallons of blood does your heart pump each day? 800 gallons, 1,000 gallons, or 2,000 gallons? And the answer for this one, guys, is C. It's 2,000 gallons, which I worked out the other day is nearly 10,000 litres. So if you think about those 2-litre bottles of pop you get, or a 2-litre jug of milk or whatever, 5,000 of them every single day. Yeah, from being born to the day that we die, pretty much. 2,000 gallons, nearly 10,000 litres of blood through your heart every single day, guys, which is absolutely amazing. And, you know, like, it's hard to imagine that, like, it's working that hard. But again, when you think about it, it's constant. It doesn't go to sleep when we do. It's always working. So, yeah, 2,000 gallons, nearly 10,000 litres. Passes through your heart every day. There we go, guys. Heart quiz done. Like I say, by all means, do let me know how you got on. I'm just seeing if there's anybody put anything in the chat or watching along in the chat. But like I say, by all means, if you do want to just even drop me an email, Rob, I got this on the heart quiz, or whatever, you know, by all means do, guys. Always love to hear it. Okay, guys. Okay, so just so we can understand this process a little bit more and in a little bit more depth, it's kind of something that we've skirted around so far, and we know that the blood comes, the oxygen comes into your system through the lungs. But so, like I mentioned earlier on, the blood doesn't go into your lungs; really. Like, it doesn't fill your lungs. The last thing we need is liquid in your lungs. That's sort of getting on, like, that's part of the problem with like pneumonia and stuff like that, you know, fluid in the lungs. So how does the blood actually get the oxygen in the first place? Yeah, because we breathe it in, the next thing it's in your blood. And we know nothing's that simple, is it? Of course it's not. So, like we say there, so blood needs to stop off at the lungs to become oxygenated before it goes to the heart to be pumped around the body, like we just looked at. But how does the oxygen go from being inhaled to in your blood, ready to be sent around the body to where it's needed? And that's what we're just going to have a little bit of a look at, guys, before we move on, as we sort of come towards the back end of today's session. So let's get into it and just understand the lungs a little bit more as well. So we breathe in through the nasal passage or the mouth, I guess, depending on however you breathe or are breathing at that time. So it comes in, passes through the pharynx, through the larynx, which is this purple bit, and then down into the trachea, yeah, which then splits in two and gives us bronchi, which is essentially the little branches that are coming off to the side. So you can think of them as branches. You can think of them as, again, other little like minor roads going off in different direction to you know, this would be the motorway bringing it down the body, and then it splits off into little other little roads and stuff like that. So branches, roads, however you want to think about it, you might think of something else, but that is what it does, guys. So we breathe in, it passes down this down the tube, down the old windpipe, into the trachea, and then splits into two. Yeah, so this side looks exactly the same. It's just the diagrams done that way, so we can see on one side where the bronchi are, and on the other side where like the ribs and stuff are. Yeah, so we've got the bronchi coming off. Yeah, so we've got bronchi coming off either side, and then, like we can see there, like tree branches, these small tubes divide off into thousands of tiny passages called bronchioles. Yeah, and at the end of these are little air sacs or alveoli. Yeah, not ravioli. Alveoli. So alveoli are the just air sacs, pretty much. As we breathe in, these little air sacs, these little almost balloons at the end of these bronchioles. So at the very tips of all of these little air sacs inflate with the oxygen, and then the blood can actually it passes sort of right next to, and they can actually pass the blood. The blood can transfer across, actually. So we can actually get a little bit of a look. So, of course, the blood that's coming back around, sort of on the outside of the lungs, is deoxygenated. So that carbon dioxide moves across this way to be breathed out when we breathe out, and the oxygen goes the other way into the blood system, round the body again. So it's always swapping and trading. It's like, okay, there's my carbon dioxide, give me that oxygen, transaction done, see you in another minute when we've done another cycle, sort of thing, and gone around the body, you know. So yeah, that is how a carbon dioxide comes back to the lungs, like I say, ready to be exhaled. So we breathe in, it fills up these little air sacs at the end of these bronchioles, or at the end of these little branches, and then, like I say, the blood in the lungs wants to drop off its carbon dioxide, and it's literally just a swap, you know. Carbon dioxide passes one way, oxygen goes the other, and then you can breathe the carbon dioxide out, and the blood and the oxygen goes off to do its job in the process in the heart that we looked at the start of the session. Yeah, so now we've tracked literally from the second oxygen enters the body through breathing, down here, down here, down here, into here, through here, into the blood, round the body on the diagram that we drew earlier on, and then it comes back to here and is breathed out, guys, and that is the whole cycle, yeah, in less than an hour. Nicely done, guys, nicely done. Okay, so like I say, it just gives us a little bit of idea how the lungs are working, and again, why it's important to look after those as well. Because if you think, of course, again, smoking, bad diet choices and stuff like that, these lungs aren't able to do their job as effectively as they need to either, as well. So again, you're going to end up having some health problems down the line if we're sort of compromising our lungs as well. And it's the entryway for oxygen into the body, isn't it? You know, your heart can be ready to go and be working fine. If your lungs can't do their job, there's not enough oxygen getting in. Okay, guys, cool. So let's have a little look at some other muscles, because a lot of people don't realize is that the heart in itself is a muscle. Yeah, the heart is a muscle, and it is what we call cardiac muscle, because again, cardiac arrest, anything to do with the heart. It's cardiac muscle, and it is different to other types of muscle that we've got in the body. So we've got smooth muscle that makes up like our organs and stuff like that. But when you say the word muscle, I think a lot of people's mind would go straight to sort of the ones that move our skeleton, you know, and the ones that we would work and, you know, get bigger or stronger in the gym, you know, that we're trying to tone up. Now, those are what we call skeletal muscles, because these muscles literally work as almost like a pulley system for your bones, because your bones give us our shape and our support. But without our muscles, our bones wouldn't be able to move. Yeah, sure, like they would have the joints, and you know, if you were to physically get hold of them, you could move them because you know the joints are there. But at the same time, like I say, you need your muscles to contract or expand, you know, to move your body. So think about it like I've of course got an elbow joint. If I get hold of my arm, I can move it that way. Yeah. Whereas I don't need to physically move it with my hand. I can control that elbow joint with my bicep and my tricep. Yeah. I ask this to shorten, and it pulls this bone here and brings it in. I ask my tricep to shorten, and it pulls from the other side and brings it back that way. Yeah. So it's all like a rope and pulley system, guys. It really is. And like I said, that is how our skeletal muscles work to allow us to move pretty much. So yeah, we've got a lot of different skeletal muscles in the body. Some of them you might have heard of before. Some of them might be totally new to you as we start working through this, guys, as well. So again, by all means, I find it interesting, you know, let me know which ones are brand new to you, which ones you have come across before, which ones did you already know, which words had you heard but you hadn't sure where they were. But let's get into it, guys. Let's have a little look at some of the main skeletal muscles in the body. So we can just look at this guy from the front view on here. And of course, we can see that he's, if anyone remembers the old Robbie Williams Rock DJ video, it's essentially the last 30 seconds of that guy. So this guy's had his skin very kindly taken off. So we can have a little bit of a look at all of these muscles, like I say, moving our bones and helping us move on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So we can see that we've got a lot of muscle front and back. So let's start from the top and work our way down. Yeah. So also we've got sort of facial muscles, which allow us to facial expressions and chewing and moving your jaw and stuff like that. These muscles are all what we class as voluntary muscles. Yeah. So your jaw won't chew and won't close, or shouldn't, unless you tell it to. Yeah. Whereas your heart is an involuntary muscle because it beats regardless of you telling it to or not. Like, days would get quite exhausting if we have to tell our heart to beat 60 times like a minute. Do you know what I mean? Like every second, and actually control it the way that you're in control of putting your arms above your head if you choose to, or putting your head down to your chest, or whatever it might be. So we've got these what we call voluntary muscles as well. So yeah, all of our facial expressions, our jaw, moving our neck side to side, all voluntary. And we can see them in the neck. It's not in fact, can I zoom in? Am I technologically able to zoom in? Yeah, there we go. Technologically competent is the word I was looking for. Yeah. So guys, you can see it's not just one muscle in the neck. It's a lot of different muscles that actually sort of help you move different directions, give you a lot of articulation in your neck. You know, you can look in a lot of different directions, which again, from a survival point of view, really, really helps us sort of keep an eye on our surroundings, because we may be top of the food chain now, but once upon a time we weren't. You know, we needed to kind of have our head on a swivel and check our surroundings for predators and stuff like that as well. So a lot of different muscle in the neck. And then we've got these big ones that stick out either side, which is the traps. which we'll get a look at when we look at the rear view, and we'll see how they look a little bit more. So staying on the front view, we've got your shoulder muscles. Yeah, so these ones here, which are the deltoids. Yeah, so we've got a front deltoid in the front of your shoulder, which is all to do with a lot of bringing your arm up in front of you. Yeah, we've got a deltoid in the side of the shoulder, which helps with a lot of sort of sideways movements. If you're lifting your arm up to the side, if you were doing star jumps, jumping jacks or whatever, that's that side deltoid. And then again, we'll look at it when we say the back. We've got a rear deltoid as well in the back, which is to do with a lot of pulling movements and stuff like that. Yeah. So front deltoid will do a lot of pushing. Rear deltoid will do a lot of pulling when we think about it that way. But we'll remember that the shoulder isn't just one muscle. It's 3 different muscles that help the shoulder joint move in a lot of different directions, guys, because of course your shoulder has a lot of range. You can do big circles with your shoulder. You know, it's a ball in a socket. The joint is a ball in a socket, which gives it a lot of room for movement. Whereas your elbow is what we call a hinge joint, because it will only move open and close like a hinge, like a door does. Yeah, your elbow shouldn't move any other direction. It's all hinging, no matter where you have your arm. It's all hinging, guys. Yes. So yeah, your shoulder has a lot more range in terms of movement, so it needs separate muscles to control that movement. So we've got our deltoids, which is all the shoulder muscles, but we do have sort of front, side, and rear deltoids, which do their own separate jobs. Yeah. On the chest, we've got the pectorals, or the pecs. Yeah. So we can see them from the center of the chest coming out into sort of either shoulder, either armpit. And that is I don't know how I've done that. That is quite a big muscle that is to do with, like, we would use that if we were doing like a hugging movement. You use that chest muscle. Any like a press up uses those chest muscles because they stretch sort of sideways and across. So we've got the pecs here, which is essentially sort of like the breast muscle, really. And that is essentially what a chicken breast is on a chicken, you know, guys. It's that same muscle, really. I mean, it works differently, but yeah, it's the same thing, really. Okay, then we've got our abs, or our abdominal muscles. Yeah, so these aren't just one muscle. These are 2 individual strips of muscle that run side by side, which is why you might have seen people in the past who, if they have a 6-pack, it's not symmetrical. They've got like, it's slightly offset. So you'll have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're not lined up perfectly. And that is because, yeah, they're 2 separate strips that sit sort of next to each other. And they are very, very surface level, these muscles as well. A lot of people think that these muscles here are mainly responsible for core strength, when really they're not. They're just the outer layer, really. You know, again, everybody has abs. I've had a lot of people over the years, I've got no abs. Like, yeah, everybody's got abs, but it just depends how well you can see them. Can you see them at all? And I'll be honest, guys, it doesn't take a high level of body fat to start to hide them. You know, so yeah, we do all have abs. They are all there. But again, I think when people think core training and core strength, they think that this muscle here or these muscles here are the ones that they need to train to have a 6-pack and to look like you've got a strong core, when really it's everything that lies underneath those muscles, everything right at your center, even your lower back muscles as well. They all make up your core. And they all add a lot to core strength, which is why when it comes to training your core and for core stability and stuff like that, you need to do a lot more than just sit-ups, because sit-ups just works this muscle here on the outside, and not all of those deeper lying core muscles that we need to work as well. Okay, guys, we can see down the side of the torso, pretty much, or down the side of the core, we've got what we call the obliques, which same again, they do a lot of sort of side to side movement. If you're sitting and sort of flexing over side to side, these muscles here will stretch. You know, if you do a little bit of yoga or stretching and you stand and do sort of like one arm over the top and lean over to one side, you're going to get that nice stretch down your obliques as well. And then they form sort of like that V shape that you might see on certain athletes, you know, like swimmers and at the Olympics and stuff like that. Everybody seems to have those V's, you know, but again, it's all to do with just the muscles that lie underneath, guys. And those are the obliques that let us move side to side. They let us twist side to side. So again, those muscles need working as well. It's not just about the abs, especially when it comes to core training. Okay, guys. So before we move on to the lower body, let's just look at the main muscle really in the arm, or the front of the arm, that we're going to think about is the bicep. Yeah. So bicep, the part bi actually standing for two, like a bicycle, two wheels. Bicycle and bicep stands for, it means that it's got two parts to it. So the bicep has two, what we call heads. Yeah, so the bicep has two parts that works through different certain movements. One movement might use one part of the bicep, a separate movement might use the other part of the bicep. So we've got two parts of the bicep. If you've ever heard of the tricep, which is the one down the back of the arm, and we'll get to in just a minute, the tricep works exactly the same. The tricep is three muscles, or a group of three muscles. So bicep is two, the tricep is three, and in the leg we've got the quadricep. So we've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4 different muscles in the front of the leg as well. So the quadricep isn't actually one muscle; it's 4 muscles working together most of the time. So yeah, that is where it comes from. So bicep, bi is 2, and that is the one that sits on the front of your arm, if you were going to sort of flex it. The tricep goes down the back of your arm, yeah. And then we've got the quadricep in the legs. So 2, 3, and 4 separate muscles, yeah. But yeah, we've got the bicep, which, like I said before, is to do with sort of moving your lower arm, your forearm, yeah, and either bringing it closer to your head or closer to the body or further away. Yeah, so that's what the bicep does. If we're doing pull-ups, we're going to be using the bicep. Of course, any sort of bicep curls are developing the biceps as well. A lot of pulling movements will use the bicep, yeah, whereas the back of the arm, the tricep, is used in a lot of pushing movements, thinking overhead press. Yeah, the shoulder works there, but also the back of the arm works to push that through as well. So that was the bicep, guys, in the sort of the upper arm at the front. So yeah, before we do the back, just move down and have a look. So we had those quadriceps, yeah, and we had those 4 different muscles. And again, they'll work through different ranges. There's different ways to make one work harder than the other, but a lot of the time they are going to work together. Now, if you're doing, think if you were doing like a squat and you were pushing things away with your legs, if you were like trying to move a heavy cabinet and you were going to like get down and use your legs and try and push it, that would like all be quadriceps as well, and a little bit of your glute muscles as well, which we're going to have a look at in just a second when we look at the rear side as well, guys, and see how those glutes work and come into play as well. We've got some minor muscles down sort of like the front of the lower leg, but you can actually put your hand down there and have a little bit of a feel where your shin is. A lot of it is bone down the front of the lower leg as well. So the main muscles in the lower leg are actually at the back. Right, let's have a look then, guys. Let's have a look. So, like I mentioned, these muscles that come out from the base of the skull into the shoulders, these ones that we can see here, we get a better view of them from the back, and we can see it's almost like kind of like a diamond shape. I think of them, they flare out to the shoulders, and they help with sort of either bringing your shoulders up towards your ears or bringing your shoulders back over to really push your chest out, and then it actually connects sort of like halfway down your spine. So it's a big muscle, and what we actually see, or what I've seen a lot of, these top parts are really, really strong. And then these lower parts are quite weak because they're not doing exercises that works the lower part of the traps. And same again, you end up with pain, you end up with imbalances, and you can end up getting a little bit of discomfort as well. So yeah, big muscle. We carry a lot of tension in our traps, to be honest, guys. If you get a massage, or if you give a massage, that's probably one of the first places you're going to look at. Like I say, we do carry a lot of tension in there, and especially like I say these days, you could say certainly the last 10, 20 years, our posture's changed a lot more. We spend a lot more time in front of screens, a lot more time driving, commuting, sitting down. You think over lockdown, over the last 18 months, have we spent a lot more time sitting down and sort of hunched over? You've maybe spent more time than usual scrolling your phone. Your head's been forward a lot. And it's this muscle here that takes a lot of the brunt of that, you know, so we don't only need to keep them relaxed and keep them massaging, work out some of that tension, but we need to keep them nice and strong as well, guys, so that our posture actually sits where it should, you know, as opposed to these muscles getting stretched out of position and starting to cause problems over time. You know, maybe it's even wear and tear on bones because your bones aren't where they should be, you know. So yeah, bad posture, guys, can have a really big knock-on effect down the line. So definitely something to be wary of. And maybe, you know, like I say, post-lockdown, post-COVID, from when we get there, you know, we might be able to think about how much your posture's changed and think about, right, okay, how can I actually get back on top of my posture and improve it a little bit. Okay, guys, okay. Moving down our body a little bit, we've got, like I say, we've got those rear delts in the back of the shoulder, our rear deltoids, small, tiny muscle that helps those shoulders come back over and helps us pull. We've got sort of rhomboids and other little muscles around where the shoulder blade would be. Same again, a lot to do with shoulders coming forwards or backwards, but also your shoulder sort of, if I can give you a better example, your shoulder rotating in a socket, because of course it doesn't just move around that way. Your arm can actually stay fixed, but rotate in the socket as well, guys. Yeah. So there's a lot of muscles there to help with rotation, and that is where, if you've ever heard of a rotator cuff, that's what that is. All of those little muscles that help kind of rotation that way, sort of rotating that way. Whatever it is, that bone rotating in that socket. Yeah. So a lot of muscles there to help contract that. Then we've got these big old muscles here that are called lats, or latissimus dorsi, if you really want to get into it. But those are our lats, and they are responsible for a lot of pulling movement in towards your chest, but also from pulling overhead. So again, if you were doing a pull-up, if you're doing a chin-up, you would be using lats, but biceps a little bit. If you change your grip to overhand, you're not using your biceps as much, and you're using those lats a lot more. Yeah. So those lat muscles to do with pulling either towards the body, like from in front or above, wherever it might be. But those lats are doing a lot of that pulling movement as well. Again, so yeah, we want to make sure in our exercise and our training we get a good mix of push and pull, rather than strengthening certain muscles and neglecting other muscles. Because same again, you get a lot of tension in your chest where you work it all the time. Here's a quick one for you guys. So right, a lot of the time over the years in the gym, when I've seen people with sort of like rounded shoulders posture, now your mindset might be, okay, I'm in this position, my shoulder muscles are looking quite quite a bit bigger than my chest muscles because my chest kind of collapsed, sort of thing. What a lot of people do is they try and work their chest muscles even more to make them bigger and to balance everything out. Yeah, it doesn't work that way though, because what we actually get, you might actually be in that rounded posture position because your chest muscles are a lot stronger and tighter than your back muscles. So strengthening these muscles and making them even tighter is only going to pull your shoulders even further forward. So you're potentially making the problem worse. If you've got a little bit of rounded shoulders, normally the best place to start is to start strengthening the back muscles so they're stronger and they balance out your chest muscles a little bit more. So it's all balance, it's all tension. And if you think about it like, once had it explained to me as think of a spider's web, right? If you pull on one side, it has an effect across the whole spider web, yeah? Other parts get closer together, these parts spread out, and your body works exactly the same. If you've got tension on parts of your muscles and parts of your skeleton and not on others, things are going to get pulled out of position. They're not going to sit as they should. And like I say, that's how eventually, it might not be overnight, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but sooner or later, yeah, we do end up with pains and discomfort and stuff like that. So, you know, same again, shows us exactly why our posture's really important. We've got our booty muscle, or the gluteus maximus, which is the biggest single muscle in the body, actually. I guess it probably depends how hard you've trained and if you do a leg day or not. But yeah, on average, it is the biggest single muscle in the body, which again explains why if you're doing a squat and you use all of this muscle, both sides, and you use all of these muscles in your legs, big muscle groups, you use a lot more oxygen, because we've sort of looked at that earlier on with the heart. We know that muscles need oxygen to work. So if we're doing a big exercise like a squat or a deadlift or a lunge or whatever it might be, and we're using all of this muscle all at once, it's no surprise that your heart rate comes up and you start to get a little bit out of breath. Whereas if we go back to the last slide and think about, if you're just working a bicep muscle and doing a bicep curl, you're not using that much muscle all in one go. So your heart rate's not going to come up as much, which is why the bigger exercises, your squats, your deadlifts, your bench press, your overhead press, you feel out of breath a lot more after doing them, because you're using that much more muscle and therefore that much more oxygen. Your heart needs to speed up the rate that it's beating at in order to keep up with the demand, really, which is why your heart rate speeds up and you get that sort of out of breath feeling going on. But yeah, we've got some big muscles in the lower body, which is again why a lot of lower body exercises will get you out of breath and burn a lot of calories as well. Actually, guys, you can actually burn more calories by doing some weighted exercises than doing a load of cardio. If you're not sure what exercises those might be, by all means, again, drop me an email. I'm happy to give you a couple of pointers that way. Okay, so we did the glutes. The glutes are a lot to do with, if you think about like sort of like the hip joint, it's a ball and a socket joint. Yeah. So it's like the shoulder joint. So we need a lot of muscle either side that stabilizes movements in a lot of different directions. Okay, guys. So yeah, we've got the glutes. Then we've got our hamstrings down the back of the leg, which is again actually a group of 3 muscles really working together. So we've got the hamstrings down the back of the legs, we've got the quadriceps down the front of your legs, and then we've got the what we call the gastrocnemius and the soleus at the bottom, which is your calf muscles pretty much, guys. So gastrocnemius is the calf, hamstrings are the back of the legs, we've got the glutes, we've got, of course, our lats, but we can see here, in fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Deep dive. You can actually see, although it's blurry now, that these lat muscles, these big wing sort of looking muscles, overlap other muscles. Yeah, so these deeper lying muscles, again, those are the sorts of muscles I'm talking about that need strengthening when we're talking about core strength. If you thinking about what I was just on about with, if your chest muscles are really strong and your back muscles aren't, you're going to get that imbalance. Think about that with your core as well. If we're thinking about, where were we before? With the abs. If all you do is work your ab muscles and not anything at your lower back, you're going to get a lot of tension at the front of your body, and again, you'll be quite sort of hunched forward. It might actually get quite painful to sort of lean back and not only push your chest out, but kind of try to stretch your torso and almost your stomach as well. So yeah, we do need that good mix of training and that good balance. That's why we don't want to train our legs 4 times a week and only do chest twice but never do back. Do you know what I mean? We want that good balance. Okay, guys, that is all the major skeletal muscles that we need to look at, really. I'll just zoom back out a tiny bit more. There we go, guys. Cool. So that's our front anterior muscles at the front, posterior muscles at the back. If you've ever heard of your bum called your posterior, yes, I remember that one. Posterior at the back, anterior at the front. And of course, we've had a good look today as well at the lungs, how the lungs work, how they bring in oxygen, how they pass that oxygen over into the blood. And then, of course, we've had a good look at our diagram as well of how the heart actually works, pumps the blood around the body, delivers oxygen to where it needs to be and helps your body keep on functioning, guys. Because of course, one of the muscles or organs that's included in that cycle is the brain as well, and we know that we need to get oxygen to the brain to keep us alive, really. And that'll do us for today, guys. Actually, we've absolutely flown through that. Like I mentioned at the start of the session, and I'm just going to put it in the chat again now in case anybody needs it. That's my email address if you've got any questions or there's anything that you're not sure of. If you need any workbooks, send it over or anything like that. That's my email. Just double checking, yeah, that's my email. Okay, guys, so from there, of course, there is a survey again to do for today's session. That is in the description for the video as well. And that can, like I say, that's not even 30 seconds, guys. And it not only gives us some key feedback that helps us do what we do, but it's actually some important info that we need to put on your paperwork on this end to save you having to do it, really, guys, top and bottom of it. So if you don't mind doing that survey, if you remember to do that survey, like I say, saves you a little bit of paperwork as well, guys. So not even 30 seconds. The link is in the description. The link for the workbook that we're working on at the minute is in the description as well. Again, guys, it's the same one as last week. So if you got last week's down, you don't need to re-download that again. That's just the How the Body Works workbook. And like I say, we're going to be able to answer the next couple of questions, guys. So we're going to be looking at pages 4 to 8 of the How the Body Works workbook. And of course, we'll have a look at that in just a second. Like I say, as always, please don't forget to do that survey, guys. And we will, of course, be back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. where we're going to be looking a little bit more at nutrition, food labels and stuff like that as well, guys. Okay, so just have a look at this workbook just before we finish up. Let's have a look. So share screen, boom, boom, boom. How the Body Works. Let's go. So we're pages 4 to 8, yeah? So we did pages 2 last week, 3 we should be able to do definitely this week after we've looked at muscles a little bit more, if we couldn't do that last week. So then we're on to page 4, guys. Yeah, so we've got, same again, a little image of the heart, and you're just going to label it with left ventricle, right ventricle, left atrium, and right atrium. Put them in the right boxes. And then there's a small little quiz to finish us up, guys. Yeah, and we answered. I think we answered all of those in the quiz that we were going through, actually, guys, as well. Page 5 done. Page 6 will just be filling in the diagram that we looked at when we talked about lungs. Same again, another little quiz, but we've got 6 questions. So putting together what we've looked at so far a little bit more, guys. So we're thinking about air is filtered when it is inhaled through the, what is the main tube called that splits off into 2 bronchi? What is the name of the small air sacs at the end of the bronchioles? What is the name of the gas that we exhale? Where are the lungs positioned on the body? And what bones protect the lungs? Coming back to when we looked at the skeleton, guys, as well. That was page 7. Activity 5, and the last page. What is the main function of the heart? What is the main function of the lungs? Yeah, so pages 4 to 8 done, and we're going to leave activity 6 or 3.1. We're going to save that for next week's session once we've talked about food and nutrition a little bit more, guys. So that's where we want to be this week, starting at page 3 if you didn't do it last week, 4 if you did do it last week. So yeah, guys, cool, happy days. And that is all that we need to do this week, guys. So as always, like I say, we'll be back next Wednesday, 10 till 11:30, 12 o'clock, again, depending on if you're going to do the fitness video straight after. That said, the link to today's fitness session is in the description under the video as well, guys. So as well as all the supplementary learner info, learner handbook that you might want to have a look through, anything to do with e-safety or concerns that you might have, where to go with them, how to process them. That's all there as well. So plenty of information in the description under the video, guys, including links to our socials as well, if you want to keep an eye on Facebook, Insta, whatever it might be, and see what we're up to, what courses are coming up. And of course, keep an eye on the developments at Savvy Towers, because there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in there. Okay, guys, that'll do us there. Then we can wrap it up there. Like I say, definitely check out the fitness video and give it a go. See how you find it. Like I say, it's all chair based, so it's all stuff you can do sitting down. And there's something in there for everybody as well, guys. So like I say, if you're just easing back into fitness and you want to sort of, like I say, ease your way back in, it's a really good place to start, either that session or the one that we did last week. If you're fancying something a little bit more intense, follow that link anyway, and it'll take you straight to the Media Savvy YouTube channel and the playlist that's got all the exercise videos in. So you can pick a circuit session, or you can pick an abs session, or whatever it might be. I'm giving myself hiccups now. Okay, guys, right, we'll call it there then. Like I say, if you do need me, if you've got any questions or anything, drop me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Of course, like I say, don't forget to do the survey, guys. As always, look after yourself, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you guys back here next Wednesday to do it all again. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good week. Take it easy. See you later.